Hi folks, we are going to be building a full stack application. This is a users management system, not just not just this, not basically just this, not a CRUD application. It's more like a semi-complex application because in this course we are going to be covering Spring Security, JSON Web Token, JWT. We are going to be looking at Bearer Token. We are going to be looking at authentication, authorization. We are going to be looking at the roles, and a user. We have an admin user and a normal user, and there are some endpoints an admin user can access, and there are also going to be some endpoint that a normal user will be able to access. So this is more like a generic architecture of the flow of application where you have a user or an admin log in. When they log in, they can perform some operations. They can be validated, and based on their validation, they'll be allowed to perform some operation. So a user model is going to be having a name, an email, a city, and a role. And the role of the user is going to be used to determine what the user can do on our application. So before we start coding, let's get an overview of what we are going to be building. So first of all, I'm just going to log in as a user, and let me just first of all pass a wrong password here. Try to log in. It's going to tell me it's a bad credential. So let me pass in the right password. And yeah, I've been successfully logged in. And here it's telling me to log out, and I can view my profile. So this is basically the role of a user and what a user can do. So if I click on log out, I've been successfully logged out, and I have returned to the home page. So let me log in as an admin and see what functionality I can perform in this application. So admin at gmail.com, and let me just call this admin. That's the password. So if I log in, we can see because I was logged in as an admin, I have access to this users management, and I can log out. In my profile, I can update my profile as well. So if I click on update this profile, my details are popped in here. I can just change this from London to, let's say, Delhi. I update. Are you sure you want to update? Yep. So after updating, it takes me to the user management page. If I go to my profile again, I can see my Delhi city has been changed to Delhi. So if I go to the users management here, I can perform CRUD operations. I can add a user over here. I can, delete a user. Let me delete John and delete a user that has been deleted. I can edit a user, I can update a user, and so forth. So let's add a new user. Let's call this Mary. Mary at gmail.com. Password Mary, and role is a user, and city she stays in, let's say, mm, let's just say New York. New York, or having a hard time thinking of a city. So I register a user, and user was successfully registered, and we can see over here the user Mary was added. So let's just add another user. Let's call this Sarah, and Sarah at gmail.com, and password Sarah, role she's an admin, and city she stays in Madrid. Can be anything. Register. It was successfully registered. Let me update this Mary here. Click on update, and let's just call the city. Let's just say, I just call this Benin. Update. So you want to update? Yes. If I see on the user again, you can see the name city has been updated. So let me delete a user, Sarah. I click on delete, it has been deleted, and we can see it's gone. So let's log out here. Click on log out, and it has been logged out. So if I try to access the registration page, we can see it's not going to work. It's going to tell me to come back and log in. So if I try to log in as a user, and password user, it has been logging, and try to access like some dedicated endpoints which are meant for admin, like to register, is not going to work. or maybe to go to the users management page, which is meant for admin. But because I'm logged in as a user, whenever I try to access the endpoint, it's going to bounce me back to log in. So that is that, and let's get to work. So let's get to work. We're going to start by writing our backend implementation. So I'm just going to go over here, go to start.spring.io, and here I'm going to use this to bootstrap my backend. So we're going to be using the Maven for compilation. Then I'm going to be sticking to the latest long-term release, which is 3.2.4. I'm just going to call this Figure Dev, and the name is just going to be just management system. I'm going to be making use of Java 21. You can use any other version you have. The packaging is jar. I'm going to add my dependency. Going to be making use of Spring Web, our Lombok, which is going to be helping us generate our data and setters. I'm going to use JPA for our database mapping. I'm going to also use a Spring Security, and I'm also going to use my SQL database. You can use any other database of your choice, and everything seems good for now. I'm going to generate. We can see it has been downloaded for me. I'm going to my downloads. I'm just going to unzip it. I'm going to open that in my IntelliJ. Open new project, download, user management. I'm going to open it. And it's going to try to run some configurations for me. So at stars is running at the background. I'm going to be adding my JWT dependency. So we are just going to here Google just type for JSON Web Token Maven. So I'm just going to go over, click on this, and here we are going to click on this, the legacy transitory dependency, which we most likely don't want to use that. But let me just click here. Here we can see that we can use just this legacy transitive dependency alone, but we are being recommended to use these three API implementation and Jackson. So we're just going to make use of these three. You can use just this one alone, it's also going to work. So let's just implementation, API, and Jackson. Let me open them in new window. So this is my implementation. I'm just going to make use of the latest at the time of recording. So if you can also click this to go with me, it's February 1st. I'm going to click that. I'm just going to copy this. Just going to go to my pom.sml. I think my IntelliJ is a little bit hanging. I don't really know why. So yeah, I'm going to move over here. Below this, I'm just going to add that here. This is the JSON Web Token implementation. I'm also going to make use of the API. We're going to be making use of the latest version as well. Copy that, go over here. Below that, paste that here. And I'm also going to be adding the last one, which is the Jackson. So it's basically for serialization and deserialization. I'm going to copy that as well. I'm going to also paste that here. I'm going to click on this little icon to reload and download our dependency. So as that is going, I'm just going to add my database connectivity in my application. I'm going to just going to open this up. I'll go to my resource, go to my application.property. I'm going to already have my database connectivity, written out. So I'm just going to copy that to save time. A link to the repo is going to be on the description of this, so you can easily just go there and look at it. So I'm going to create a database called users management. If you are using a database on the cloud, you can just put your URL over here, put in your username, password, and it's going to create for you. If you're using my Postgres, this is going to be your Postgres, not no longer my SQL. So I'm just going to be using port 1010. You can choose a port of your choice. So I'm just going to create this database on my this database in my I'm just going to create a database so you can come over here. If you're using Workbench, if you're using a shell or whatever you're using, just make sure you create a database of users management. So I can come over here, click on plus to add a database. I can just execute this schema over here. So you can also just run this at your end. And created database successful. If I refresh this, you can see users management database has been created. So I'm just going to go over here and go to my users management, and I'm going to just run this out to make sure that it was built correctly. So enable this. So since I have my Spring security dependency, I'm just going to this is just going to throw some kind of default credentials for us to connect, which I'm going to be expecting. Yeah. So you can see here, this is more like this is our login password and all that. Yeah, so my application was successfully built. This is just what I needed, and yeah. All right, I'm going to continue by creating my packages. I'm just going to stop this server for now. Let's take it a little bit down. So I'm going to create my packages. So here I'm going to just create a package. It's going to be where we're going to be writing our configuration, call that config. I'm going to create another package. For this controller, create our repository package. Also, we're going to create our service package. As we're going to create our DTO, here we have our data transfer object, and we are going to also create our entity package. So all things seems to be fine. I am going to also proceed by creating my entity immediately. Our entity is basically an ORM that helps to create our tables and create columns for us. So in the entity package, I'm going to create a class. I'm just going to call this our users. I won't want to use users. I want to differentiate the users of Spring Security from our users. So hence I'm using our users. So I'm going to create that. Annotate this with at entity. A table, I just want to give this a name. Let the name be our users. I'm going to annotate it with our data from Longbox. This is going to help generate our getters and our setters methods. So here I'm just going to have my ID, generated value, strategy, generated type dot identity. This is going to be a private integer ID. Is going to be our ID is going to be auto generated for us, and it's going to be our unique identifier. So let's also have our string of email. Let's also have our string of a name. Let's also have our string password. Let's also have our string of city. Let's also have our string of role. And this our user is going to implement the user details from Spring Security, since we are going to be using Spring Security and just want our user to have different kind of role, and those roles will determine their access in the application. So let's implement our Spring user details. And see the user details from the Spring Security.user details. So here I'm going to implement methods. So here for our grant authorities, I'm just going to return lists dot of new. This should be simple granted authority, and it's just going to be role. So this role is going to determine the authority this a user is going to have on our application. So that's what this does. So our username is just going to be, I want email to be the username. So email is going to be the user. When the user is logged in, we're going to be allowing the user to type in an email and the password. So the email is going to function as a username we're going to be using to authenticate a user. So over here as well, down here, I'm just going to, his account expire. I'm just going to this like his account non expire. This is more like a negation. I'm just going to make all this true, 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 true. So yeah, so that seems to work fine. And next, I'm going to write my DTO. So let's do that quickly. Go over to my DTO class here, create my DTO class. I'm just going to call this a request response. It's just going to be used for receiving a request and giving a response. For this request response, I'm just going to annotate it with as data. It's going to help generate our getter and setter. I'm just going to say include JSON includes dot not null. I'm also going to say JSON ignore properties. This is going to be ignore unknown. I'm expecting this autocomplete to be true. So what this does is, since I'm going to be making use of this class for taking a request and sending a response, so if the feeds over here are not being passed, these are going to ignore the feeds. So let me write my feeds here. So here I'm just going to have a status code. It's going to be used to return a status code, private string here error. So let me just copy this and paste it a couple of times. I'm going to have my message. I'm going to have my token. I'm going to have my refresh token. I'm going to have my expiration time. I'm going to have my name, my city, my role, password is going to be our users, is going to be our users, and here this also last is going to be our users list. Is going to be a list of our users. So yep, just code error message. We have our token, refresh token, expiration time. We have our name. We have our city. We have our role. We have our password. We have our users, and we have our user list. So this looks a little bit good for now. Let me go to my users again and see if email, name, password, city, role. So let's just make sure I have my email here. Okay, email is not here. Let me add that email here. Email. So everything seems to be set. So we are going to write our repo in our implementation in our repo. So let me see, I think, okay, there's a little bit error here. Yeah, so I'm going to my repository. I'm just going to write our repository here. So this is going to be our users repo. Come over here, new class. Let's just call this users repo. Let's just make it a little bit short. And here, this is going to be an interface. Let me refactor this name Java, yeah. Interface, yeah. I was expecting that. Then I can rotate this with at repository, but most likely we don't need that because we are going to be extending JPA repository, which by default it was already annotated with that repository. So we no need to re-annotate this. So since we are going to be passing in our object and our the primary key of our object, so our object is our entities, our users. So I'm just going to pass that here. And the primary key is an integer here. So just make sure this is correctly imported. And that's that. So here I'm just going to create some methods to find by email. I'm just going to optional. Our users is going to return an option of our users. Find by email. I'm just going to pass in the email here. And that seems to be fine. So next we are going to create our JWT util. So what that basically does is that is going to be used to generate a signature for a logged-in user. And your logged-in user is always going to carry that signature along, and whenever he or she wants to access the secure endpoint, is going to pass that signature in. And if that signature is authenticated by the system, is going to permit that user to access those endpoints. So that's basically what the service is all about. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to create a class. I'm just going to call this JWT Utils. It's a Java class, and I'm going to annotate with it at components or at service. You can either of that is fine. So here I'm just going to create a private secret key. This is a key, and I'm going to just create a private. It's going to be a static. Let's call this final strong. There's this called this expiration time. This is going to be the duration of our secret key of our bearer token, so to say. So this is going to be, I just want it to be 24 hours for now. Just say 24 hours is going to expire in 24. So this is going to be, let me just come over here and come over here and just do this. I'm just paste it there. So this is 24-hour long. Okay, yeah. So I have to add the long to it. Or by the way, let me just make this let's just call this a long there. So I'm just going to create a private, a public. my constructor JWT Utils. Here I'm just going to create a key here. But then I'm just going to say secret string equals to, let me just bring this here. This is what we're going to be using to create a secret. This is the algorithm we're going to be hashing to create secret. So let me just copy that. I don't want it to type it, it's kind of a little bit long. So that's that. So here I'm just going to create a byte. I was going to call this key byte base 64. I always want this thing to generate for me. Base 64 dot get decoder dot decode our secret key dot get bytes. We're going to make it of the standard character set for UTF-8. I'm going to be using that to decode it. And here I'm just going to say this dot key equal to new secret key secret spec, which is up here, secret key spec. I'm just going to pass in the key bytes, and then the algorithm for hashing is going to be HMACSHA256. So this is more like a secure algorithm for hashing. So I'm just basically hashing this key and creating an algorithm for it, which is going to be more like a byte and sequence, and I'm just going to create that key. So next I'm just going to create a method to generate a token, to generate a refresh token, and to do all of that. So let's just call this public, then return a string and generate token. Let's pass in a user details from the Spring security. Let's call this user details, and let's return JWTs dot user dot subject, which is our user details dot get username. So we're basically hashing the username here. Is issued at, let's just create the date, new date, system dot current time utils dot expiration time, new date, system dot current time util plus our expiration time, which is this here, and sign with, we're going to be signing it with our key, which is this key, which we're actually creating an algorithm for when an object of this util is created. And then dot compact, yeah, that seems fine. So next I'm just going to create, so for in case you want to create a refresh token, let's just create that again. Hash map string objects And here we have our claims. User details. Got our user details. And here we just do the same thing over here. JWT.reader dot claims. It's going to be our claims. Dot subject, which is this. Dot issue at, which is this. Expiration, which is this. Sign with and compact. So this to generate our refresh token. So at the same time, let's just write method to extract our username and all of those. So public string so this basically is going to be used to validate a token. We just create extract claim, which are going to create data. We'll be passing our token. Claims. Get subjects. And we are just going to create this extract claims over here. Just going to copy that. Because it's going to be private method. That be generic. Token. And we're passing this token to it. Create a function. Names. Let's call this claim function. Let's return claims function dot apply. Then JWTs parse dot verify with. Let's verify with our key up there. Now let's build the builder method. Pass signature claims, just passing our token. Let's get our payload. So that seems to work fine. So let's just check, create another method to just check if our token is valid or if our token expire. So let's just do that quickly. See boolean is token valid string token user details user details. So name equals to extract tokens token and return. We just cast this username equals user details the username and let's just create another one. Is another method. Let's call this is token expired. Expired. We're just going to pass in a token to it. I'm just going to create this over here. Public boolean is token expired. Bring token return extract claims passing my token passing my claims. I'm extracting the basket expiration. Where's that expiration up here before dates. So yeah, so this seems to work fine. Like not really working, we just written, not tested it, but we believe when we keep final, we believe this is, this is going to work fine. We are going to proceed by creating our user detail service. So come over here, see our user details service. And here I'm just going to annotate it with that service, or you can use that component. And here I'm just going to implement user detail service, which is from the security, string security, which you can see over here. Just going to implement the members just to get load user by username. So here I'm going to, first of all, before that, I'm just going to auto wired our repository. User repo, this is going to be users repo dot find by email, person username dot ors true. Just if there's problem error, just throw an error. Yeah, so this is our user detail service. So we are going to write our JWT Auth filter. So I'm just going to my configuration here, and I'm going to create a class called JWT Auth Filter. Again, this is going to be managed by Spring Boot, so I'm just going to annotate this with add components. I'm going to be bringing in my JWT Utils, which we just created. I'm going to also be bringing in our user detail service. Call it that after this. So I'm going to, here I'm just going to extend once per request filter. So I'm going to implement my do filter internal. So here we have our requests, we have our response. So this is the first, whenever we make a request to application, this is going to be an interceptor. This is going to be the first, point of call. So this is going to just check. You can see once per filter, just going to check our request if it's authenticated, and it's just going to do the necessary thing. So this is going to be our first point of call. So here, let's write our implementation. Let's call this auth header equals to request dot get header, and here session. So whenever we make a request to our backend, this is going to be our request. It's going to collect our response, send it back. So it's in a filter chain. So here in the request, remember when it's going to, since we've already generated whenever a user sign in, we're going to see that at the moment it's going to generate a token for the user. And whenever a user is making an HTTP call to our backend, and it's going to access our endpoint. It's going to pass in that token, which is a bearer token, into the header, and it's going to be passing in. So what this class is doing is intercepting that request, and here is extracting that token, which is a bearer token, from the header, and is saving it as auth header. So we're going to just check if this token is authenticated, and we're going to do the necessary thing. So that's what this line of code is. So let's just proceed and continue what we are doing. So this is string JWT. Let's call this JWT token. Okay, final string user email. Remember, the email is what we use as the username. So I'm just going to say if, just create a conditional statement, if auth header, which is this, just rename it correctly, if auth header is equal to none, or auth header dot is blank, then we are going to filter chain dot to filter. We are going to pass in the request and response, and it's going to move to the next. So that's that. And we are going to turn. We're just going to start this work in a moment. So I'm going to also move here. I'm just saying JWT token equals to auth header dot substring. I'm just going to collect the JWT token. So here we can see this authorization. Whenever we're passing a JWT token from the front end or from wherever we are calling it from, it's going to have authorization and the bearer token. It's going to have bearer and the token. So the bearer is like are more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, more like 7. So we are removing the bearer and we are actually getting the actual token, which is this. So in the we are substringing the first 7 character, which is the bearer, from the specified token, and we're getting the actual token over here. So that's what that is. So user email equals to JWT Utils dot extract username JWT token. We can see in our JWT util which we created here, we actually created a class to extract our username, which is this, and when we exported this in 47, so okay, let me just put that there to get rid of the error. We actually created a method to extract username, which we are using over here to extract the username from the token which we are passing in, and that username is, we're just saving it and calling it a user email. Okay, so that being said, I'm just going to say if user email just is not equals to null, and see what about the 90 or dollar security context holder dot get context dot get authentication equals to null, then user details not our user details, details, let's call that user details, equal to our user details service dot load username, call that user email. So we've successfully extracted our user email from our token, and we are loading it here. Okay, let's just create another if statement. If JWT util dot is token valid, And let's just pass in our JWT token and our user details. Then again, our security context. Security context, let me just put this up. Equal to security context holder dot create empty context. Then username password authentication token, which is token equal to new, I don't know how I'm using capital letter, new username password authentication token. And here I'm just going to say user details. No, just going to pass this in. Then user details dot get authorities. I'm going to close this up, and I'm just going to say token dot set details. It's going to be new web authentication detail source. It's a builder dot build details, my request, and we are just going to say security security context dot set authentication, which is token, and we are just going to say security context holder dot set context or security context. Then we're just going down over here. So no, we're going down over here, and we're just going to say filter chain dot to filter request response. So this is our first line of code, and from here, from the code, it seems to be very simple. What it's doing is just very straightforward, as I tried to explain earlier. So from here is going to move us to a security config, where we are going to write our security config. So here I'm just going to come over here. I'm just going to create a class, and I'm going to call this security config. Here we're going to be able to know which endpoints or which path we are going to allow security to be on, or which we are going to insert. So just going to do security config. Yep, so this is a configuration, and here we just want to enable web security as well. To put that over there, and we are going to be bringing in our dependency as well, and this is our user detail service. This might look a little bit confusing, but just follow along and don't really worry much. Just follow along. JWT Auth Filter. So JWT Auth Filter. I'm going to proceed to create my security filter chain. So this is a bin. Let's call this a bin. Let's just public security filter chain. This security filter chain, and HTTP security. Leave it at that, and let's just throw exception. If we don't throw that, it's going to yell at us. So yep, so security does CSFR. So let's disable the default configurer, abstract HTTP configurer, disable. And after that, I'm just going to I'm just going to customizer dot with defaults dot authentication. This authorize HTTP request. I'm just going to pass in my request. Just move this a little bit up so we can see what's going on here. Request And yeah, let's just call this the request. So to request matches, just want to check if it matches. For now, let's just say if it matches auth and anything after, as well as if it matches anything that has to do with, let's just say, public. If I have any URL I want to be publicly available, I can say if it just probably matches that. Then let's just say dot permit all, then dot request matches again. If not, if my request, my path, that's my URL matches slash admin, and every other thing that comes after the admin, then I just want to authenticate it with a user that have an authority of admin. I want to create another one again, request matches. Let's say this time around, let's say slash user and just slash probably anything that comes after. And I'm just going to say dot has authority. If has authority user, I can probably go on and on and on. Let's just do this again and say if it has, let's say, admin user, probably this endpoint is going to be accessible by both admin and user. So probably admin user slash whenever comes along dot has authority. Here I can say okay, it should have authority of both admin and a user. So this means USAR. So this means both admin and user should be able to access endpoint to which this part. Only user should be able to access this endpoint. Only admin should be able to access this endpoint, and this other one will be accessed publicly. Okay. So yep. So that's that. And here I'm just going to say dot any request. So any other request that was not added, I'm just going to authenticate it. You get, so yeah, that's that. I'm just going to say dot session management. Just going to call this manager. I'm just going to say manager dot session creation policy. Session creation policy dot stateless and dot authentication provider is going to be our authentication provider. So I'm just going to create this authentication provider below quickly. So let's just say authentication provider dot add filter before. I'm just going to say JWT filter and user password authentication dot class. Okay. So you can see this JWT filter is being added before this thing. So that means this is primarily the entry point. This is going to do filter before. So when it receives a request, if it's authentic, if it requires authentication, it's going to pass it to this security config, and here is going to do the stuff. So let's create a bin below again, public authentication provider, and let's just call it this authentication provider here. And here we are just going to say DAO authentication provider, which is DAO authentication provider equals to new DAO authentication provider. So let us continue again. Set user data service is going to be our user data service. I'm just going to the DAO authentication provider again dot set password encoder. We're also going to create this password encoder below again. I just call this password encoder for now. And Yep, we're now going to return the authentication provider. So I'm just going to create this password encoder again. It's going to be managed by Spring Boot. So it's a bin password encoder. Let's just call this password. I'm going to return the password encoder for me. And here I'm basically returning a new decrypt password encoder. And yep, so that's that. And I'm just going to create the bin below of authentication manager. Authentication manager, let's just call this authentication manager. And it's going to pass take in and just probably do this first. Then just authentication configuration. Config. Authentication configuration. One of the reasons I don't like typing, I prefer it to autocomplete for me. So it's not going to, I just say throws exception. And this over here. So this is just going to return authentication configurer dot get authentication manager. Yep, so this seems to be set for us. So I think if I go over here, there's more like a 2 error warning. Let me see what's going on. It's telling me expecting this in 44. I'm using return statement in 45. Okay, let's look at line 44 and 45. 44 expecting this and 45. Okay, you need the return statement. So we've not even built our security filter chain. So let's return http security.build. And yep, I think the error is gone. I think we are seems to be good. So before we write our endpoint, let's create our course configuration since we are going to be connecting from the front end. So let's just create our course origin and let's just call this course config, which is basically configuration. So here I'm just going to annotate it with add configuration. And here I'm just going to, this is going to be a bin, it's going to be auto managed and public. Let's just say web MPC configurer, web MPC configurer, and it's just going to return new web MPC configurer. I'm just going to be making use of add course here. Let's just look for that. The add course mapping, which is this. Yes, this is going to be, I'm just going to say registry dot add mapping and just going to say slash everything, every mapping. I'm going to say dot allow methods. So I just want to allow our methods basically get post, put, delete. So these are the methods I want to allow. Dot allow origins. Where is that again? Okay. Just allow from everywhere. We don't want to. Here you can add your listed IP that you probably want to list for us. I just want to allow from all origin, and yep, that seems to work fine. So let's move to write our login registration and login, service, more like a user management service. So let's do that quickly. So I'm just going to my service again. I'm going to now, let's start our implementation. I'm just going to call this users management let's see, ROVI service. So here I'm just going to annotate this with at service. So Spring Boot knows how to handle this service. And here I'm going to wiring a lot of stuff. Also wired, I'm going to make use of my repo, which is users repo, just repo. I'm also going to be bringing in my JWT Utils, JWT Utils, JWT Utils. I'm also going to be bringing in authentication manager. I'm also going to be bringing in my password encoder, because when we are logging in, when we want to create a user, we basically convert the password to a hashed format before storing on our database. So when we want to do that, we basically need a password encoder. Let's call this password encoder. So this looks a little bit fine. So let's just create a method to register a user. So it's going to, we already have our request and response DTO. So I'm just going to use that as well. Let's just call it register. Is going to pass in, take in our request response. For the registration request, I just make this a little bit descriptive. And here I'm just going to say request response, no, request response equals to new request response. So here I'm going to create a try and catch, exception A, if there's an exception, then I'm just going to catch it below. I'm just going to say response dot set status code. Status code is just going to be 500, and response dot set error message. Set error. Let's just call ce dot get message. We're extracting the error from the. So if we want to know what this is our request and response. As I said earlier, this is going to be used to collect our request and send our response. So whatever we have here, JSON include and JSON ignore property is going to ignore feeds that don't have values. So if I'm using this as a request and I didn't pass an error, a message, a token, it's going to ignore those feeds. And if I'm using this as a response DTO, I'm not passing in, probably let's say I'm not passing in a password, a refresh token, or expiration time is going to ignore those feeds. So that's what this is. So let's just proceed and make this a little bit fast. So I'm just going to create our users users. Our users equals to new our users. I'm just going to say our users dot set email. I think I should just copy this and paste. Let me just do the punch. I think it's going to be very fast. Just get email. We're going to be setting email, setting password, role, city, name. And yeah, set email, set city, set role, set that will name before no, and set password. So set city, get email. This is going to be get city. This is going to be get role. This is going to be get name. And for our password, this we're just going to be making use of our password encoder to encode our password. So here I'm just going to say password encoder dot encode. I'm just going to pass it my password dot get the actual password to the password encoder to encode for us. So this seems to be properly set. I'm just going to I'm just going to save it here, which is going to actually return our users for this dot equals to users repo, which we are auto wiring here, and we're using it to save the user. Save, and we're just going to pass in our users. Should be our user, not our users. Our user, yeah. Just create our user. So we are saving our user, and yep, so that seems fine. Let's just probably write some conditional statements, and if the results, let's say the results dot get I, or is dot get ID, yeah, if it's greater than 0, ID actually start from 1, 2, 3. So if the results of our saving have returned an object whose ID is greater than 0, that means it was successfully saved. So let's just build our response object and say set our users is going to be our user results. And we can just say our response again dot, let's just set a message and just say user saved successfully, and we can just probably add a status code as well. Set status code, we can just call this 200 or 201 as the case may be. So yep, so I think let's return our no, let's return our response here. So that's that. So let's also create all our methods to log in, for refresh token, to get our users, to get user by ID, to delete a user, to update a user. So let's just write those implementation quickly. So let's write our login implementation. So I'm going to be a little bit fast. So here, let's just say public return a request response. And I call this login. I'm just going to just call this login request. So here I'm just going to create a request response. I just call this response. Just to new request response. As usual, just do our try and catch. Here exception A, and here I'm just going to say response.set status code 500 and response and return response.set message. Let's just say a get message. So here within our try, I'm just going to say authentication manager dot authenticate. I'm just going to pass in my new username, password, authentication token. Just going to send in my login request. Just going to get the email dot get email, and I'm also going to get the password, comma, login request dot get password. Okay, I'm just going to, I think I should move this to the next line so we can probably see what's going on here. And yep, so let me zoom this in. Where is that? Where is that? How to zoom in? It's kind of crazy. Yep. Okay. So let me just take this to the next line. And after that, I'm just going to create a variable here. I'm just going to call this user equals to user repo dot find by email. I'm just going to get a login request. Just extract the email dot get email. Or let's throw an error. If it's not there, just go through an error. So I'm just going to create my JWT JWT this to generate token. If I JWT Utils no JWT Utils to generate token. What's going on here? Did I not? Okay, did I not wire that? Okay, generate token. I'm just going to, if I successfully log in, then I should generate a token. So let's just generate a token on behalf of this user, which we are finding. So we are trying to log in. So I'm going to collect the email and the password. I'm going to authenticate it, and I'm just going to, check if just check if that email and password exists. If it exists, I'm just going to create a token for that user, which is this. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to generate a refresh token again for that user. We just call this refresh token equal to the same JWT utils dot generate refresh token. I'm just going to a new hashman. I think I was getting the suggestion and of user. So I'm just going to do my response dot set status code. Set status code. So this is going to be 200. It's successful. I'm going to say response dot set token. This is going to be our JWT, which is this our token. Then I'm going to do response return response dot set refresh token. Refresh token is going to be our refresh token. And response dot set expiration time. I just want to return these details you get. So for what we are currently using is 24 hours. Let's just say you can use like 4 months, 1 year, depends. This is more for a test. For tutorial 6, I'm just going to use 24 hours. Response dot set message. Just to create a custom message, let's say success successfully logged in. That's going to be the custom message. And yep, so that's that. So let me just return my response here. So that is looks a bit okay. I'm going to add other implementation quickly. Okay, I just wrote other implementation like to refresh a token. I want us to be very fast. So this, if you want to refresh a token, we can probably pass in the token, and then we just collect it, validate it, and just make sure that the bearer token that has been passed in is a valid one. Then when it is valid, then we can just refresh a token for that person that is a new token. So that's what this does. We might not necessarily make use of it. So this is to get our users. What I'm basically doing is user find all is going to return all users for us. These are just me building my response. I'm not really much here. So this is to get a user by ID. I'm just going to pass in an ID. First, I'm just going to check if such user exists. If it doesn't exist, I'm going to throw a user not found exception. If it does exist, I'm just going to collect the user, build, my response, and return that user to as a response. Then this is to delete a user. The same thing, just check if a user exists. If it exists, if it doesn't exist, just say user does not exist. If it does, then delete that user and return a successful message. Here I'm catching the exception. So this is to update a user. So I'm going to be passing the user ID and the details of the user we want to update. So by the ID, just Just check if that user actually exists. If it's there, collect the updated details, just replace it with the new ones and then just save it. So that's pretty straightforward. And also to get my info, just we're going to be passing the email, which we are going to see how that is done. Just verify the email and return it to the user. Yeah, so these are our service have been properly built. So let's just go to here and write our controller, and then we are going to test and we'll be done with our backend. So here I'm going to over here, just call here. I'm just going to call this user management controller. I just want my description to be descriptive. So here, just annotate it with res controller, and we're just going to AutoWire. We are going to be bringing in our private user management service, which we just concluded shortly. And yep, that's that. So first of all, we are going to be creating an endpoint to register a user and to log in. So I'm just going to call this post mapping. When a user go to /auth/register, just make sure this is properly spelled. Then I'm just going to create my what response entity, which is basically going to be a request response, as we all know. And I'm just going to call this register. And here I'm just going to pass in our body, request body. This is request and response of, let's just call this registration. Let's just call this request. Yeah, reg is okay. Let's not. I'm just going to return our response entity dot okay. And I'm just going to pass in our user management service dot register, and I'm going to just pass in my request. So that's that. I'm going to create endpoint for login as well. So I'm just going to copy this. It's basically the same thing. Just here, just going to be login, and this is going to be, let's just call this login. I call it sign in. This is just going to be user dot login, and you pass in your requests. Just call this requests req. So yep, so that's that. We can also create our endpoint to get our user to, let's just do that quickly. This is going to be at get mapping. And when you to get our user, we only want admin to be able to get our users based on our implementation we have. So /admin/ let's just say go to get all users. I'm just going to be public. The same thing, response entity of request response, and let's just call this get all users. And this is going to be get request and return. Just copy and paste this here. It's dot get all users. Get users, and we don't have to pass in anything. So let's just create to refresh a token quickly. So in case we want to create a new token, let's just do that. Here, let's just call this auth/refresh. And here, let's call this a request button. Let's just say fresh token. So this dot refresh token. I just put in a request. So that's that. Let's also create our get mapping to get user by ID and to delete a user. So here, get user by ID. Let me just copy that to get user ID. So here admin slash, let's just call this get dash user. And here we are just going to be passing a user ID. So let's create a code block here. Whatever is being passed in is going to be collected. After whatever is being passed in as a slash in the URL is going to be collected as user ID. So here we are just going to say add path variable. This is basically a path variable, which is an integer. I'm just going to call the user, just call this user ID here. So this is going to be collected here and it's going to be passed in here. So this is going to be get user by ID. So that has been done, and let's also create to update a user and to delete a user. So let me just copy this and put here. So admin slash, let's just call this update slash then our user ID, and let's just call this update user. So this is going to be our path variable is going to be there, and our request body, which we're going to be bringing in as well. Our request response. Why is this not coming up? Request response. We just call this request at. I think this should be at here. So yep, I think that's kind of fine. Then yep, that seems to be fine. So here, first of all, I'm just going to say this dot updates user. I'm just going to be passing in our, I'm going to be passing in a user ID and this object here, which is this and this. So what's this? This is our users and provided. Okay, this requires our users. Okay, response body. Let's our users to collect the response body. That was what was was required there. So that's that. And let's also write our implementation to get the current profile of the logged in user. Let's also do that. Is going to be a get mapping. So here, both an admin and a user should be able to get their profile. I'm just going to call this admin user. So let me go to my security config and see what was there. This is admin user. Let me just copy that here. So admin user and admin user to be able to, let's just call this get profile. Yep, then here just call this get profile. Let's call this get my profile of working user. And here we are not going to pass in anything over here. So we're just going to write some conditional statement or logic. So here I'm just going to say authentication. I just want to get the the state of the correct login user. So this is going to be authentication from security core. Call this authentication. Go to security context holder, security contest holder, dot get contests, get the contest dot get authentication. And here I'm just going to say email. I just want to extract the email from the current login user. Here authentication dot get name. Since email is more of a unique identifier, so when we say get name is basically going to get the email of the of the unique identifier email, which is name, which is basically what we call email over here. Okay, let's just move forward. Let me not just make go to and fro. So I'm just going to create a request response. for this response user management service dot get my info. I'm just going to pass in the email there. I'm just going to say return response entity dot status and just say response dot get status code dot body. I'm just going to pass in our response. Yep, so this looks a bit okay. So let me run an application and let's test this out. So for now, if we go to our security config, we can see that for all authentication, which is to log in and to register, are publicly permitted. Slash admin is only accessible by admin, and user is only accessible by users. So let me just make sure that everything is fine with my controller. Let me just go over everything again. I just wrote the, let me just check if everything is fine. This looks fine. Just check this. Or slash login seems fine. To refresh a token seems fine. To get our users seems fine as well. User by ID, this if okay, yeah. Doesn't really, have doesn't really much thing to get a user by ID, to update a user, to delete a user. Yep. To update a user, this is a put request. Yep, there's gonna be a put request, put mapping to did have anything to delete a user, auth, register post, refresh post, get mapping by ID, update a user is a put request. To get a user proof, okay, let's just create to delete a user. Let me just copy this as well. And this is just going to be delete mapping. And this is going to be admin. Admin should have access to delete a user. So let me slash admin slash all this delete, then slash the user ID is going to be, let's call it the delete user and path variable. Yeah. And for deleting a user, we do not need to pass in the anybody. So with the ID, just to so just okay, this service, let's just call it delete user, and just going to pass in the user ID. Yeah, so that looks a little bit okay. So let me just go here and run application, and then let's quickly do a little bit of testing to see if it works fine. Then yeah. Let's bring this up. Just running. Yep, so this is started at 10:10. So let me just go to my customer and just try to get our users. Okay, for bidding. So what I'm going to do first, let me just try to register a user. I'm just going to go to the body. Let me just call this test city. Let's just call the Los Angeles. It's kind of the wrong way to spell city, but just keep it cool. Then send. Okay, user saved successfully. And let me add another user. Let's just call this admin. Email is admin. And role is admin. Password is admin. City is Delhi. That's what admin should be. User saved successfully. Okay. And let's create a third user. Let's just call this user. Let's call this user and city. This should be in Lagos. Send user was created. Let me go to my database. Let me just select from this dot our users. Let's just check if our record is actually there. We can see we have 3 users. 1, 2, 3. Our password are being hashed, and the role is correctly saved here. We have 2 users and 1 admin. So let's try to log in and see We try to log in using an admin because an admin logged in will be able to have access to other endpoints. So this is an admin which we registered over here, which we saw it earlier. So let me just log in with this admin. Or we can see admin was logged in and the message is here, successfully logged in and the token. So this is our token. We are going to copy this token and we're going to pass it to be able to access endpoints. So to get all endpoints, if I'm not passing in a token, I just sent it's going to come in 403 forbidden because over here I'm saying that in the configuration, I'm saying that for you to access slash admin, you need an admin permission, which is this slash admin, you need an admin permission. So let me just go over to my authorization, bearer token. Let me just copy and paste the right one. We can see we're able to access. If I try to pass in the wrong token, and send, we can see is forbidden. So let me just pass in the right one again. We can see successful. We are able to get what our user is an array list of users, user ID 1, user ID 3, user ID first 2, user ID 2 here. So we're able to get this user. Let's just get user by ID. Let me just pass in my bearer token again. And let me just say, let me just get ID 1. The forbidden, so okay. Admin slash get user. Let me just make sure I'm passing in the right token. Alright, so that is forbidden. Let me just look at what's going on. Let's go over here, slash admin slash get users ID. Let me just copy this. Yep. To get our users, admin here. Let me just make sure that everything is fine. Okay, this should not be get users slash users ID. Yeah, that should be it. Let me just copy that again. Just say paste it there, get admin get user slash, let's just pass the ID 2. And our token is there. We can see we can get the ID. The URL was actually not correct, so that was why. So yeah, that works fine. So let's we've tested 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's update the user. Update and before the let me get a user info. So I can just probably let's just say to get the user info, what is the URL again? Admin user slash okay get profile. This to get the profile. So yeah, so irrespective of where you are, and get profile admin user slash get profile. You need an authorization. Let me check here. You need authorization. So let me go to bearer token. Go to my login, copy my bearer token. So irrespective of whatever token you are using is going to get your profile for you. So get info again. So okay, let me pass it here. Send. I say this is my info. So if I pass in a token of user 2, is going to return the information of that user. So let's update a user. Update a user. Let's say no, who should be able to update a user? I think admin should be able to update a user. Yeah, admin should be able to update a user. Admin slash update. So admin slash update slash 2, then just pass in the token. Update user is a put request I can see over here. So bearer token, passing the token and the body. Let's say name is admin email. Let's just change the city. Let's just call the city Jamaica. Yep. Let's just say Jamaica. We can see now Jamaica city is now Jamaica. If I try to get user by ID 2, was this 2 earlier? Yeah, I think I was 2. We can see the city now is now Jamaica. So I think Jamaica is a country actually. Well, let's just keep it simple. Yep, so everything looks fine. And yep, so that is that. Let's try to log in as a user and check if we can access these endpoints. So here, let me just say user password was actually a user. So let's try or login. Yeah, so sorry log as a user. So let me just try to access endpoint that are only accessible by admin. So let's say, for example, get all users should not be accessible by users, only by admin. So let me put in the token for a user and just try to hit it. We can say it's 4 3 forbidden, not have the right to access this. So let's just try to delete a user and just check if this works. So bearer token, let me try putting a user bearer token and just try to delete user one. Let's do it user one. So slash admin slash delete slash one. Percent is forbidden. So let's log in as an admin and use that token to delete. Yep. Where is it again? Delete a user. Just change the token. So that's higher. We can see user successfully deleted. If I try to get a user by ID1, which was recently deleted, we can see error called user not found. So but try to get all users. Let me just pass in the right token. We can see all users were found. We only have two left. Go to my database and try to go again. We can see we only have two users left. Yeah, so this is it. Okay, so let's proceed to create our front end React app. So I'm just going to my terminal or to my command prompt. I'm going to cd to a folder where I usually create my tutorial. And here I'm just going to run npx create React app and my project name, which is users management front end. I'm going to do that and it's going to bootstrap for me. As we can see, our app has been successfully created. So currently it's really at my end and I have to shift the mic close to my mouth so it can capture my sound correctly. So in case probably the background is a bit noisy or blurry. Yeah, so that's that. So next I'm going to open this project on my Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to go over here, new window, click on this to zoom out, click on the Explorer, open folder. This is my Fagon Dev, my users management front end. I'm going to open that. And we can see if I go to my package.json, we can see our dependency over here. So I'm just going to open this in my, I'm just going to open my terminal over here. And we are going to be installing the dependency Azios, or is it Azios or Azios? Yeah, something like that. Azios for making HTTP call. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm just going to do npm install Azios, and I'm also going to be installing React router DOM for navigating. So click on next and let's just wait for it to install. So as it's doing that, I'm going over here and I'm going to create my folder to structure my application. So I think that has been created over here. We can see our Azios and our React wrapper done here. So over here, I'm just going to create a folder. Here, I'm just going to call this component. Component. And inside the components, I'm going to be having other folders. I'm going to call this auth. And again, I'm going to create another folder. I'm just going to call this common. This is going to have my footer and my navbar. And with our component, I'm going to create another folder. I'm just going to call this service. And also, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call this users. This is basically the profile, the update user and the management page. Let me just call this users page. Yeah, let's call this users page. And I think that is that. So I'm just going to try to run this to see if it's going to run successfully. So to run my application, I'm just going to do npm run start, and it is going to try to load and start up. So as that is doing at the background, I'm going to get rid of this. I no longer need this. Just going to get rid of them and this as well. So we can see our application was successfully run. So we are going to continue by cleaning up our application. Our app.css, we no longer need this. Get rid of that. Our app index.css, we don't need this. So I'm going to copy a style over here, which I already pre-wrote for our entire application. Since this is not a CSS and HTML course, I'm not going to be explaining much about my styling. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to just paste over here. So I'm going to leave a link to the description where you can get access to all of these. So that has been done. So next I'm just going to start creating my component file. So here in my alt, I'm going to create a file, a component. Let's call this login page .js. You can use JSX. You can use JSX. It's fine. I'm also going to create my registration page. So in my common, I'm going to create my footer and my header and my navbar, so to say. In my service, I'm going to create our service. This is basically going to contain methods for you know making HTTP call to our backend. So I'm just going to call this users service .js, and here in my users page I'm going to have a profile page, an update user, and a user management page. So I'm just going to come over here, unify. What am I doing? I'm going to have another one called update user. I'm going to have another one called user management. So everything seems to be done. Okay, next I'll go to my user service and I'm going to write our implementation for making HTTP call. I'm going to be creating method to log in, to register, to get all users to get, you know, and some other kind of methods. So I'm just going to go into it. First, I'm going to import Azure. Is it Azure? Azure. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm just going to create a class. I'm just going to call this users service. Here I'm just going to create a static base. Let's call this base URL, which we all know our URL is. And if I go here, we're just going to see it's localhost 1010, which is going to be, let's copy the absolute path, HTTP localhost 1010 to the double slash. So I'm going to create a function to log in. Let's just make this a static. I think I'm just going to call this login. So there, It's going to take in an email and a password. And over here, I'm just going to put it in a try and catch block or a block to always put my things in a try and catch. Let's catch error and let's just console.log error. Let's just through the error. Through error. Here I'm just going to response equals to, let's await this. Is your stuff post a post request. Then we are going to, let me use backtick. I'm just going to get this variable of this our user service dot our base URL, and I'm going to slash, if we go to auth, if we remember our endpoint for login, what's going on here, we can see that we have auth slash login. So let me just copy that. And we are going to have our auth slash login, and here as well I'm going to pass my objects, my body, which is basically an email and a password, and I'm going to return my response dot data. I'm going to be getting the data from the response. I'm going to return that. So in the same way, I'm also going to create endpoints for registration and other kind of endpoints. So let me just copy this and just paste and modify. For registration, copy that, paste it here, just call this register. This is going to take in our user data, which contains our role, name, email, city, password, and all of those. And here also contain our token. Remember, before you only a user has only an admin has the power to register a user. So just pass the token here. So as well is the post request, this is going to be auth slash register, and we are going to be passing in our user data objects, which contains all our data, and as well I'm going to pass it in a header as well. Just going to do something like this, take push it to the next line. I'm just going to say, come here and say headers. It's just going to be an authorization, and here is back to again, error, and where is this stuff? And then our token. So that seems fine. I'm just going to return our response of data. If there's error, it's going to throw the error. So this seems fine. I'm also going to create an endpoint to get all user and to get all user to get user by ID and all of that. So let me copy this and paste this. So let me just just get this down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so this is going to be, let's call this get all users. This is going to just take in a token. Remember, only admin has the access to get all users. So this is going to be a get request. And here is going to, let me look at the path again to get all users. This is going to be admin slash get all users. So just copy all. This is going to be admin slash get all users. Here I'm not passing any data here. And our header is there, and we return our response. Let me also create an endpoint to get our profile. Let's just call this. Let me just get your profile. You just get the profile, the current login user. So this again takes in a token, is a get request, and this is going to be get profile. and this is going to be admin. Anybody, admin and user should have access to this point, to this endpoint. So let me just, this is going to be admin users. Just get that admin users. Let's get profile. So we are all going to test this out. If something is wrong, we are all going to come back and make the correction. So this is not our final code. So I'm just going to create another one to get a user by ID. Let's say get user by ID is going to take in user ID and a token. So this is a get request as well. This is going to be admin and this is going to be a get user. And here I'm just going to pass in a slash and pass in the user ID variable. So this is going to be our user ID. And that's that. I'm passing in my headers and returning the response. So I'm also going to create a method to delete a user and to update a user as well. So I'm going to copy this and just paste this here. I'm just going to call this delete user. This is going to pass in a user ID and token. This is going to be a delete request. And here is going to be admin. The path is going to be admin slash delete slash the ID that we're going to be passing in. This is going to be their token. Just make sure this is readable. Let's make this readable. Yep, so that seems fine. Then that's all. This is our delete user. Then I'm going to also copy paste this again to create our update user. Let's call this update user. So here, taking our user ID, then I'm just going to pass in our user data as well because we're going to be, it's going to be the body. So here I'm just going to this admin slash update and slash the ID. I'm going to pass in our user data here as the body. And after that, I'm going to pass in my authorization here and it's going to do this for me. So yeah, so all our method is complete. So below, I'm just going to create some authentication method. These are going to be able, this method, we are going to make use of this method to know which URL to show to the user and all of that. So it's very simple. So let me just comment this and call this authentication checker. So this, we are going to be able to, let me check my spelling. We are going to, this method are going to tell us who is currently logged in. Is it a user that is logged in? Is it an admin? Is someone currently logged in? So this is an authentication checker. So I just want to put everything here. I want to start creating classes for this. So let's just quickly do this. Let's create a method to log that first of all. And so if you click on this, I just want to local storage dot remove item token. Normally, if somebody logs in, we are going to collect the token and save it in our local storage. We are also going to collect the role of the user and save it. So the token and the role is what we are going to be using to know which user is currently logged in. So if we are logging out, we are actually removing the token and removing the role of the user. So yeah, that's that. So I'm just going to return. No, so that's that. So those have been removed. So next, I'm going to write a method to check if it's authenticated. I'm just going to call this is authenticated. So this is going to be a boolean, and I'm just going to first of all get the token. Just want to check if a user is logged in local storage dot get item. I'm going to see how to set item in the local storage quickly. So token And here I'm just going to return true if there's token or false if there's no token. So if this has a value, I'm going to return true. If it doesn't have a value or it's none or it's empty, I'm going to return false. That's what this code is. So next, I'm just going to check if the user is an admin. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it. I'm just going to call this is admin. So just check if the user is admin. So here I'm just going to check the role. So if okay, just call this role. So here if role is equal to admin. So this is going to be true if the role is an admin, and it's going to be false if the role is not an admin. So same way, let's just check if this is a user as well. We are going to be seeing how to use all this in our application. This user, let's just say if this is user, and then just check if it's an admin only. So just to do the same thing is admin only. So here I'm just going to return. I'm just going to return this dot is authenticated. Just check if a user is currently logged in, and if this dot is admin, so this is going to return if it's just an admin. This is going to check. I think this can also do the same thing, but let's just probably just yeah. So yeah, let us do it that way. So okay, so that's that. Let me not forget to export this. Export, export default, let's say user service. Copy the name. What did I name this as? User service. In next, we are going to write our login page implementation. So before then, I'd just like to rename this our user service. I don't really like the name. Don't just call it user service. Yeah, I think it looks kind of really be cool. So that's fine. So I'm going to my login page. I'm going to write my implementation. First of all, I'm just going to import React from React. I'm just going to also import useState. Also, I'm going to be making use of it. UseState. Also, I'm just going to import use navigate, and I'm going to import a user service from user service. Yeah, so that seems fine. So I'm going to write my function. Just going to call this login page. So before I forget, I'm just going to quickly export it over here. At the bottom here, I'm just going to export default. I'm going to call this login page. So that seems fine. So within the login page, we are going to be writing our implementation. So first of all, I'm just going to create my templates. I'm just going to here use a return, and I'm just going to have my div here, and I'm just going to have a h2. It's going to be a heading. Just call this login, and here I'm just going to have my form action. So just get rid of that action for now. So within the form, I'm going to have another big div, and that's just going to have a label which don't really need this. I'm just going to call this email, and I'm going to have my input type is going to be an email. I hope that was spelled correctly. I'm just going to give it a value. I'm just going to call this email, which I'm going to set in my getter setters, and on change. Did I say getter setter? No, use state. Okay, on change, I'm just going to collect my things, my event. I'm just going to say set email. I think I should have just done this before. Okay, so let's just e.target e.target. What is it in e.target of value? I'm just going to get the value and I'm just going to set it to the email. So I'm going to just copy and paste this a second time. It's going to create my password for me. Password and type is going to be a password. Value is going to be password and this is going to be set password. So I'm just going to have a little bit of button over here. Button type is going to be a submit, and here I'm just going to say login. So above here, I'm just going to write my functions for logging in. So here I'm just going to first of all create my my email and function to set email equals to use state is going to be holding a string. So let's use that. I'm just going to do the same thing for my password. And probably let's just probably also have an in case we have error as well. So let's just call this password set password. Why is this not working? Set password. Can I just say error? In case we have error, let's also collect it. No, no, concept of error. Error, you just say set error. Okay. Yep. So that's that here. We are going to be probably navigating when we do something. So let's just quickly write that down. Navigate equals to use navigate and I just create an object of that navigation. Yeah, put this a little bit upward. I just put this twice. Error set error. So yep. So that is seems a bit fine. So I'm just going to create a function to handle submit. I'm just going to call this handle submit. First, so let's just call this on async. Because most of the time we basically use async to write these days. So let's just keep with that trend and e.prevent. Let's prevent default behavior for now. And let's proceed. I'm just going to put this in a try and catch. I mean, it's try catch. Yep. So if there's error, I'm just going to, let's just say set. Before then, let me just um let's just should I let me just okay, let's just console log the error first. So log error. I'm just going to use the set error over here. Set error over here to show the error. I'll just copy this. So it's not working. Set error. I'm going to say probably the error that is going to be thrown, which is basically going to be the error. And so within that, I'm just going to create a set timeout. Set timeout and just passing a method within. Here, I'm just going to run the set error. I'm just going to play the error after like 5 seconds. I'm just going to comma 5000 milliseconds, which is 5 seconds. So I'm going to play the error out. So that seems fine. So within a try, I'm going to, Let's create a const. Just going to call this user data. So I'm just going to await our user service, which we are imported here, dot login. Have login. I'm just going to pass in our email and password. What am I doing? Is that email? Email and password. This is this email and password. Where are we setting the email and password? We are setting it. We are collecting the value email here. Set email, which is the value here, and set password, which is this. So that's what we are doing here. So yep. So everything seems to be fine. So if I'm successfully logged in, how will I know if I'm successfully logged in? I'm just going to say if here is user data dot token. If I'm successfully logged in, there's going to be a token. So I'm just going to check if token exists. I'm going to save local sort that token, set item, and the key and the value is our user data dot token. At the same time, I'm going to set my role. Local storage, you want to know which person exactly is logged in. I'm just going to call the key role and the value user data dot role. If from our login, if I successfully log in, let me go to my endpoint again. And then this we can see we have our login, we have our token, which is our token is there as well. So yep, so as if there's no token there, I'm just going to say set error. I'm just going to say set error. User data dot error is going to be error as well. So that works fine. Is everything is working well. I'm just going to navigate to our profile page, which I'm just going to create in the course of the lesson. So this seems to be working fine. So here, as I said, I have some pre-styling I already wrote out. So I'm just going to add those styling here. Class name. I'm just going to call this auth container. Then we're just going to over here. I'm just going to dynamically, return an error. So here, I'm just going to see if there's error. I'm just going to return this p tag. Here, I'm just going to say, just return the error here. And I'm just going to what's that? Here, I'm going to just give it a class name. This is style, not children. Class name. This is styling. I already gave that, which is error message. And yep, so for my form on submit, if I submit, I want to run the handle submit method, which we just created here, function, sorry. So in my this other div, I'm just going to give it a styling, which I call form group, and this is also going to this styling is also going to be applicable to this as well. So yep, so this is it. Correct. So I think here when we are logging in, we are getting the token and the role. But in our login response, we are getting the token, but we are not having access to the role of the user. So that means in our implementation, we have some little bit of problem, which is very simple. So over here in the response, I'm just going to be adding the role to it so we can have access to the role when a user is logged in. So I'm just going to come here and say response dot set role, which is going to be user dot get role. So this is the user data from the repository. I'm just getting the role, I'm setting it to the set role. So let me just refresh this again, stop and rerun, and let's rerun and just test that quickly so we can have access to the role over here, which we're going to be using for authentication in our front end. So that seems to fine. So let me log in again. Okay, that seems to probably work. In again, processing for as a pin. Here it has worked. We can see our row over here is being returned in the response. So we will have access to the row in our front end over here. So yep, that's just a little correction I just needed to do at my back end. So we are going to be a little bit faster and we are going to write our registration page. So let me just pause the video and quickly write everything down. Okay, so here it is, and basically what we are doing here is we have our template here, so that which is this, and when you can when you pass your name, your email, your password, your role, the city is going to be captured over here, and the handle input change. If you pass in your name, it's going to set the name here. Passing email is going to set it here. Passing password is going to set it here. Passing role is going to set it here. Same as city. So when you click on the submit, that's the register over here, is going to run this method handle submit, which basically we saw in our login page, which is this. So here is going to get, remember, if you are logged in, you already have a token saved, so it's going to get a token and it's going to pass the token to the register method which we created in our user service, and also going to bundle our data here from data, which are all these, and it's going to pass it, and that is going to register a user for us. So if that is done, it's going to alert us that a user is successfully registered, and it's going to navigate to the user management page. If there's error, it's just going to use an alert here. Just want to make it a little bit simple rather than creating some more advanced error and showing of results. So that's that. So yeah. So let's create our footer component. It's just put it here, very simple footer. Just do that. So let's create our navbar as well. For our navbar, I have my implementation already. So it's here. So it's very straightforward. So here we just have figure dev, profile, user management, and log out. So here, if you click on log out, it's going to handle this log out. It's going to ask if you want to actually log out. If you say, let's say you want to log out this user, if you say yes, then it's going to just run the user service of log out. So what basically is here is basically just to remove your token and remove your role from your local storage. So when that is done, it's going to navigate you to the home page, which is basically to the login page. So that's what this is. So here I'm just going to check if it's authenticated, which we all see here is authenticated. It's just check if the user is logged in. So if a user, let me just go back again. So my nav. So if a user is authenticated, I'm just going to, if a user is not authenticated, it's going to show this frequent dev. If it's authenticated, it's just going to show the profile. If a user is an admin, it's going to show the user management. And if a user is logged in, it's going to show the logout as well. So that's basically the navbar. We are going to write our profile page implementation. So here it is. I'm just going to explain what this is to save time. So this is basically our profile page that has a name, email, city, and if this is an admin, it should be able to, it should show this button. If it's not an admin, it should not show this button. So that's that. So when a user goes to the profile page, the use effect is triggered, which helps to run this method fetch profile info. So what this does is going to make use of the token and is going to make call to the get user info service by passing in your token. Remember, this is authentication, so most of our endpoints require you to log in before you're able to access. So trying to get your profile info, you should be logged in. You should have your token already. So that's what we are doing, collecting the token where we store it, pass it to this method, collect our response, set our response with this here. We use state. This takes an object as a profile info. Here we are seeing profile info.name, profile info.email, profile info.city, and we are collecting the data and we are displaying the data over here. So we are going to proceed to write our update user implementation. So I already wrote them down. I'm also going to put them here and explain. So this is basically a form to update a user. So when I click on update user, it's going to take me to this form. So after everything, I'm going to explain each of them one after the other again from the beginning. So you have an overview of what exactly and how I did what I did. So this is the form. When you type in your name, it's going to collect the name, email, tests, email, role, city. And before it comes here, when you're navigating to this page, it's going to get all the value and it's going to populate it. When navigating to this page, it's going to already fetch the user by ID by passing in the ID, and it's going to populate the data into this place and it's going to show it. So when you type in your value here and modify it, it's going to replace the data here over here as well. So that when you click on the save, it's going to handle submit and it's going to just get your token as usual and bundle your data and also the ID and just take it to the update user. So let's come over here and see the update user, which should be this update user. So that is that. So let's also proceed to the user management page and write our implementation there and test everything out and then come over again and then explain bit by bit so it will be very clear. So here is my user management page. I'm going to write my pre-written implementation as well. So here basically when you navigate to this page, that if you're an admin, this page is going to be accessible to you. So I already saw in the Navbar. So when you're in this page, it's going to fetch users, where it's going to pass in a token, get all the users, and when those users are begotten, it's going to save it here using set users as users. And that here over here is going to, this is a table here I created here. It's a HTML table basically. So here I'm just going to map over the user, more like a for loop, group over the user, where I collect the user ID, display it, the name, the email, and these are buttons to delete a user and to update a user as well. So when you click on the update user, it's going to put in the user ID and it's going to navigate to this page, update user, which I was seeing earlier. So in this page here, we are collecting the ID here by using params to collect the ID that is being passed in, which is so whenever there is a change in the ID here, it's going to re-render this method fetch user data by ID. So that's basically what we are doing. So we over here, when you click on the update user, is going to navigate to this page and pass in the user ID. So in the user ID, we're going to use it to fetch the data by the user, populate the data over here, and whenever we make a change, it's going to replace that data. And we click on submit, it's going to make a HTTP code to make an update. So that is that. So let's go to our app.js and create our routing over here and our base implementation. So as well here in my app.js, I'm going to create my routing and I'm just going to bring in my components. I'm going to mount them where they are needed. So as I did earlier, I wrote them down quickly. So which is this? So here I'm just bringing in all the things that are needed. So here is a browser router, since we're going to be using routing. So if you go to slash, you should go to login, slash login as well. You should go to this route. It should be your login component should be rendered. If you go to slash profile, the profile page component, and over here, if you go to any path that is not within our routing, it should by default take you, navigate you to the login page. So over here I'm just putting a guard on this endpoint. So this is more like a guard, and these are endpoints that are only accessible by an admin. So admin should only have the ability to register a user. Admin should only have the ability to go to the user management page, and admin should only have the ability to update or delete a user. So these routes are being guarded by an admin, which we saw when we created those methods here, admin only. So that's that. And yeah, so let's just check if this is still running properly. Okay, so let me just control that. Same thing, I won't start again. And let's just check if that's going to run. Okay, we have some problem here. In this, okay, module not found, can't resolve component slash user slash profile page. In this, okay, app.js, app.js, okay, all our errors are in our app.js. Cannot module not found, user management page. Okay, so let's just see how to resolve that. So let's just say import update user, update user. Okay, so let's just get the other ones out. Okay, so user management, let's just import user management page. From here, let's just get the old one out, and let's check profile page is not properly imported. Import profile page, and let's get rid of the other one, and let's just check if all our implementation is going to work fine this time. Okay, it seems to run fine. Let me just here, I can refresh that. We can see it's there. So let me try to log in. But before that, let me check which user do I have. I currently have an admin and a user. Okay, so let me just try and log in as a user first. So I'm just going to say user@gmail.com. The password is user. Login. We can see on cuts. Okay, do we have a problem? If you meant to render a collection of children, use an array instead. So I think this error is coming from, let me just check. This is going to be from our login page, because we're trying to log in just now. Just spread that, and yep. So React storm dot just move up a little bit. Okay, so let me just go to my login page. Let's check if I'm doing some kind of crazy stuff over here. So yeah, login page. Let's just see. Set error. I think I'm trying to get it. I don't think I will be able to set error here means a string. I think I'm just trying to set an object here, which does not really make sense. So let's just say error dot message. Let's just check if that is going to work. Let's just check if that is going to work. Why is this telling me I'm having a breach? What's that? So let me try to log in again. User at and we say user service is not defined. User service dot login. Okay. Okay. Handle submits. So I think the error is coming from our handle submit function, which is this. So what I'm going to do is I just find that user service that they're talking about here. I'm just going to call it user service, something like user service. Okay, that's a little bit crazy right now. So let me go to my user service. Oh, so this should be user service, not user supplement. I remember I changed it. I remember I changed this to, yep. So I remember I changed this supposed to be user service. I remember I renamed it. Yeah. So I think that's where the problem is. So this can come up when you are trying to be very fast to big time. Yep. So I think everything seems to be working right now. So yeah, so let's go again and refresh and just try to log in user at gmail.com and user. Let me just try to use the wrong password and check that. I'm not getting any response. Oh, that's crazy. So let me just try to use the right password. Okay, this has worked and we can see our user information is here. And if I refresh, I can have a log out and click on log out and it was successfully logged out, and that is that. So I user at gmail.com. I want to, if I put a wrong password, I should be able to get a response. Okay, I'm not getting a response. So yeah, let's just console log that here in our login. Yeah. If there's error, I think it should be this console.log should be logging error, which I'm not seeing the logs here. So what's going on? Let me check my response. Is my response getting any value? Just say console.log user data. And I try to log in issue, issue. I think user data dot message. Yeah, and this should be message. Let me just try to. Yeah, I can see bad credential here. We can get our message actually. Our endpoint does not give an error. I think it's a message. I don't really think I said that there. So yeah, it's a message. So yeah, let's just consider credentials. So let's just continue to log in. So let's just put the right credentials, user, and just log in. All right. So yeah, so let's click on log out to log out. And did I actually log out? Yeah, was logged out. So let's log in as an admin and check if we have our right implementation in place. So admin at gmail.com and password admin. I click on login. We can see an admin was logged in, and here I'm able to update the profile of the admin because I'm an admin. And here I can go to the user management and I can see here I cannot fetch all users here, which I should be able to fetch. So let me just see what the problem is. Get all user is not a function. Okay. I think we really did a lot of crazy stuff here. So yeah, so let's just go see it here. Get all users not a function. Yeah. I think let me just see what is here. Get all users. I think I used a capital letter over there. So I think that has been resolved. If I refresh now, I should be able to see all my users here. Yep. So if I click on profile, it takes me to my profile. Let me just update my profile. I'm not able to get all my details because get user by ID is not a function again, which we probably made a mistake. So get user, this should be small s, user by ID. And if I refresh here, okay, feed with the status code, errors, refreshing user, 403, and fresh user by ID, await this, okay. So let me just go to my endpoint and see what exactly is get user by ID. So this should be get users admin slash get users slash one. Let's just check this out. Error code not a user. Okay. Let me just log in again. This was already logged in. Let me just get this token and get user by ID. I'm just passing the token here. And let's just say 2. User was successfully there. So let me go back again. and admin slash get user. Actually, this should be get users, not get user. Get users. Yeah, that should be get users over here. So yep. So let's just check this again. We can see our user information is there. We probably didn't write our endpoint correctly. So yeah. So let me change this from Jamaica to, let's say, Delhi. That's a city in India. Update. Are you sure to update? Yes. Okay. Error failed. We status code 403. Updating user profile. Yep, yep, yep. I think we are passing in a bad URL again. So let me just go to my updates user, and here we are saying handle submit. Is our update user? Yep, update user, update user. We are doing admin slash update slash user ID. Let me just check that. That's what's in the update user. Admin slash update slash that's ID. So admin slash update slash the ID. So yeah, so let me just probably just write this correctly for a while. And update user. So update user. Let me probably just console log the response. Let me just see response equals to await this. Let me console log the response for now. What's going on here? Update user dot user space slash update user. Just the response is not defined. What's going on there? Rest. Let's respond. I think the time is fast spent and a little bit busy. Okay. Yep. So let me console log the response and probably see what's going on. Let me just change this to London updates. Are you sure? Yep. Okay. Fill with 403. 403 is unauthorized. So yeah. So that's 403 unauthorized. So where exactly is it unauthorized? Um. So let me just come over here and why is it saying delete user? Why is it saying delete? So let me go over to my update user. Okay, this is actually a put request, not a delete request. Yep. So yeah, it's a put. I think that was kind of crazy over there. So yep. So let's just call this London updates. Are you sure? Yep. It was successfully updated, as you can see over here. And if I go to my user again profile, we can see my city is now London. That has worked. Let me just go over my user details method to make sure everything is correct. This is a put request, update user. Delete is a delete request. Get user by ID. Yeah, those are get and those worked. So now let me add another user. So if I go to slash register, I don't know. I think there's already a button here to register. So click on add user. It's going to come over here. So let's just add a user called is Mary at gmail.com. Let me the password. It's a password. The user is a user and the city is Abuja. Register. User successfully register. Okay, yeah. We can see over here Mary is there. Let's add some kind of more user and let me just add. Let's call this John. It's more popular. John at gmail.com. Password John as well. Role is an admin and city. Let's call this city. Should we choose? Let's just choose. Let's say Madrid. Register. It was successfully registered. So now let's log in as a Mary and say let me log out. Are you sure you want to log out? Yes, we are successfully logged out and we are now in the login. So let me log in as Mary at gmail.com. Password Mary. Login, no value present. Oh, maybe okay. Gmail at l.com. Login to successfully log in. And yeah, we can see that if I try to go to the registration page, you can see it automatically takes me back to the login page because that is not authorized. So if I try to go to some kind of wrong URL, it takes me to the login page again. So if I go to profile, I can see myself. I can click on logout. I usually have to log out. Yep, I'm back to the login page.